I'm glad to see you guys. I see Eli and Xavier. I'm gonna play some music. Just you know, get a pencil and paper out, and we will be starting in 5 minutes on the dot. Oh yeah, and go ahead and share this webinar link with your friends to join. And while we wait, let me know what you are grateful for this evening. Not just this evening. If you want to say what you're grateful for over the past year, go ahead and type that in. Okay, so Eli said, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, by the way. Um, Eli said, I'm just grateful for being alive and the infinite possibilities that are before me. A smiley face at the end. What a fabulous attitude. I can tell that you have a great mindset. I don't know if it's partially because of my own YouTube videos or because you're naturally that way, but that is a fabulous mindset to have. It reminds me of what John Templeton has said. Hopefully the music's not too loud so you can still hear me. Um, John Templeton he's an investor who was one of the first people to become a billionaire, and he was uh, homeless, or not really homeless, but he didn't have a lot of options, and he grew up poor. And he wrote a few books on how he achieved his success and wealth. And some of the things he says is you have to be very grateful, and you have to realize the opportunities in front of you, and realize how plentiful this world is. Um, so again, this isn't I haven't started the webinar yet. We're still waiting until 4 p.m., which is in 3 minutes from now. Um, so yeah, this is just a little intro before we get started. Xavier, uh, you said, I'm grateful to have new experiences that made me become better as a person, and also visited new awesome places. That is awesome. That's wonderful that you had the opportunity to travel. Not a lot of people get that opportunity. Um, you're grateful for new experiences that made you become a better person. That's awesome too. We always want to become better every day, and it's great that you have that mindset to do that, because not everyone does. I see Mancusta has joined. Don't worry, we haven't started the webinar yet. It will start in 2 minutes. Right now, we're just getting situated. So we're basically doing a little exercise before the webinar starts. Just type in the chat one thing you're grateful for, and share this webinar on social media if you have any for your friends to join. Oh yeah, and as we wait, make sure that you remove any type of distraction that you may have in front of you. So if you have the TV on or your phone on or any mobile devices on, make sure to turn those off and grab pencil and paper so you have my full attention and you can write down notes. I think there'll be a lot of valuable things that you can start exercising today once this webinar gets started in 1 minute. Hello, Mancusta. I see you've joined. Hopefully, you're grateful for certain things in your life. So go ahead and make sure you have a pencil and paper, and we'll be starting in a minute. All right, guys. So let's just get started now. So it is 4 p.m. sharp. I don't want to start late. So as promised, I have a lot planned. It's going to be a 30-minute presentation, and I have a lot to say. So thank you so much for joining me today. And first off, I want to ask you guys, how are you? Are you doing well? Are you doing poorly? Let me know in the chat right now. Great, great. So Mancusta is doing pretty well. He just got back from vacation. Eli is doing well as well. And Xavier is typing right now. All right, so looks like Xavier's typing something long here. So, okay, here he is. Oh, so Xavier actually just broke up with his girlfriend 1 month ago. So, he's probably, still working on some things, but I think it's great. Whether you're doing well or not doing well, um, I think that this video will be very helpful for you guys. So let's move on. My story. So who am I, and what is this webinar about? So first off, I want to just do a brief agenda overview on what we're going to cover during this webinar. So the central goal is to teach you guys how to achieve long-lasting happiness through habits and lifestyle changes. These are very organic lifestyle habits that you can start working on right now. And from there, it's just something that will take time to build. These habits are not instant. So you have to realize that. And I'm very excited because these, so many people, they say things like, oh, you need pharmaceuticals or antidepressants. And I think that's often not the case. And so I just got the message that this meeting room is now full. And it seems like Richard has just joined us. Richard, thanks for joining. We just got started. And I'm just very excited to see what we got in store. So before we begin, let's do some quick housekeeping. Turn off all cell phones and electronic devices. Close your door. Turn off any distraction. Get out a pen and paper. I have a lot planned, and I think you will be very excited to begin. I'll give you 20 seconds. We're limited on time. 20 seconds to get that done. So turn off your phones and get the pencil and paper out. Okay, so it seems like most of you have got that filled out. It's great. Okay, everyone's done. So it's going to be a 30-minute webinar and a little bit of detail on our agenda. So first we will begin with my story. It will be a long story, but it will be simplified and condensed to show you where I've been through in terms of depression, happiness, and whatever else. And then we'll get into the pillars of happiness, the 4 pillars as I call it, and the habits of happiness you can start implementing. Now, these are through the dozens of books I've read on happiness and the dozens of lectures and courses I've looked at on the subject. And we will end with Q&A and a couple bonuses. So let's begin with my story. As you can see, this is a picture of me. Um, Hopefully you guys can see that on the screen. This is actually the thumbnail for one of my latest YouTube videos, What to Spend On for Lasting Happiness. And we'll begin with my story on happiness. So, I started off in high school kind of, depressed throughout, and I couldn't really put my finger on why. I thought initially that maybe, it was this or that, but I really just had this underlying feeling. And I remember this one time when I went to get my driver's license from the DMV, and um, we took the picture, and I looked at it, and I told my mom, just look at my eyes. You can tell that I just have this like underlying unhappiness to them. And it was just this thing, I had a lot going on in high school, a bit of pressure to pursue certain career paths in medicine. And on top of that, I went from getting close to straight A's to doing poorly in school, getting C's and D's. And the reason was because I had been pushed to test for the gifted and talented programs, which meant that if you accepted, you were taking classes 2 levels above your normal grade level. And I tested for every class, um, and that included English and social studies and everything, and I passed. So initially I was very excited because I'd been pushed for many years to get into the program, and I finally did, but the push caused me to um, be inundated with too much, and I didn't know how to take it, and my parents didn't really take it that well either. Rather than really supporting me, they kind of just were angry that I wasn't, performing as well. Even though it wasn't like I was trying less, I was trying more, but I wasn't used to spending hours every day after school studying and cramming. Oftentimes, it used to just be, you know, less than an hour of homework every day. So that was tough on me. And when I went to college, things had changed a bit because I had met a friend who was very helpful, and he loved school, and that rubbed off on me. And I looked at school in a different manner. And this was senior year of high school. And long story short, I started doing very well in school because his mindset and his enthusiasm for school rubbed off on me. And I looked at it more as a fun game rather than this overwhelming work. And lo and behold, hanging around him a lot um, helped me a lot. You are the average of the 5 people you hang around most. So um, my academics improved tremendously. But then I went off to college alone without my friend again. And for the next few years in college, um, things slowly went back to this level of a bit of unhappiness, but there's definitely times where I was happy. And I really just wasn't sure what was going on. And at that time, for most of it, I came across a situation in the freshman year of college where basically I got, um, uh, I would say, hurt a bit with a girl. I thought she liked me, but apparently, I didn't pull the trigger or do anything, and um, uh, nothing happened. And then she went off with other guys. And so, for a lot of college, I thought that okay, if I could just get a attractive girl on a date and to be my girlfriend, or be friends with attractive girls, or hook up with them or whatever, I would be happy. And that was one of my big priorities other than academics. The other parts of my life I had fairly sorted, not really, but I was working on them, and I realized that my social life and my dating life were doing really poorly. So I spent a lot more time at that, and there's still this level of unhappiness there. Um, and then finally, over the last year or so, I got into a lot of self-development. I started reading tons of books, watching a lot of videos and speeches and interviews on YouTube from some of the most successful people on the planet. People who had accumulated billions of dollars, um, and people who had uh, become celebrities, people who had achieved lasting happiness, um, to meditational leaders like the Dalai Lama, and on and on and on. Hundreds of people. Ellen DeGeneres, um, Warren Buffett, and it wasn't always people who were rich. It was people who were really happy. And I just expanded my mind on not just happiness, but entrepreneurship, business, self-development. And I learned so much. I watched a lot of TED Talks, watched a lot of lectures from scientists, read a lot of books on the science of happiness. And there's still some more books I'm excited to read in the future on happiness that I have ready to read. And I have just so much knowledge now to show to you guys. And my life, my perspective just opened up because uh, I realized that I saw people that were poor, that were happy, people who had nothing, no wealth, no money, and they were very, very happy. And it really just opened my eyes. And I started seeing that you don't need money to be happy. And what is it that brings happiness? And I didn't want just mushy gushy advice. I wanted like actual reputable advice from scientists, from empirical data as well, to see what really brings happiness. So let's move on. So let's do a quick poll. Let me know in the chat, what are you doing in terms of your levels of happiness now? On a scale of 1 to 10 on a day-to-day basis, 10 being super, super happy, let me know in the chat right now, where do you rate yourself? 1 is just, I'm depressed, I'm completely unhappy. Okay, so we're seeing things around the middle. Richard said 5. Eli says about an 8. Moncusta, he says about a 6. It goes up and down, and it should go up and down. On a just day-to-day basis, it shouldn't. Realistically, it shouldn't stay constant. And Xavier Silva says internal happiness around a 7. So basically, you guys are on a general range. You seem to be a crowd that are doing decently well, above average, I would say. So Xavier is asking, happiness is not about the life situation, right? That's a very good question, and there'll be a more extensive live Q&A at the end. Just a quick answer for that right now. I do agree, there's a lot of people who are very happy, and it's not about them not facing obstacles. It's really about having the right mindset, because a lot of these people do face a lot of obstacles constantly in life, and it's really them, not the environment. Habits and behaviors to start implementing. So this is the exciting part. This is what I want to provide to you guys. I think it's very amazing stuff, and let's just get started. So from a scientific perspective, up to 60% of your happiness is genetic, but fear not, this is changeable. Don't get let down by this statistic. It's true that genetically, just based off how your parents were, your natural range of happiness, if you don't step in yourself, is predetermined. Some people are naturally more depressed than others. Some people are naturally more happy. And there's a lot of survivability reasons for this. For most of our civilization, it was better for you to be more depressed or more alert to the negative things in your life so that you would survive. It's much better to highlight that tiger that you saw in the wilderness to protect your tribe rather than that happy moment you had with your family. But times have changed, and that's not always the case anymore. Um, and so, even though you have a general range, I'm not going to lie, to be honest, my natural range is on the depressed side, just genetically. I know that for a fact, and I know people who are like that. However, me and others, I have found that they have been able to pump themselves up and stay on the happy range of the scale. So that gets us to the four pillars, which you can start implementing right now. And it won't be an instant fix. These things take time. So these are the four pillars through science and a lot of studies that I have put together. This is a recurrent theme that I've seen throughout a lot of them. It's not everything, but we'll start here. So we have work, faith, community, and family. Work is what you do for occupation. If you're in school still, it could be your major or what you're working towards. And you don't necessarily have to have found your dream calling. I think that's a fallacy. It's more that you are working towards finding your dream calling. And eventually, once you find your work of passion, you will achieve a level of flow and fulfillment where things aren't too hard, but they're not too easy, and it's just great. So write that down in your notepad right now. Um, Working towards finding a work of passion. So what this means is finding a job that you're passionate for. And many people spend 5 or 10 years working towards that journey. And so don't fall into the fallacy that you have to just get there. Um, and also understand that you know there's plenty of people who have learned to love their work. So there's a degree of both involved in it. And I think, there's a part of you that shouldn't ever settle, but there's a part that should start to learn to love your work as well while you're moving towards something. Um, Faith. So faith is basically religion. And as a disclaimer, you don't need all four of these pillars to be happy. There are people who are very happy who are not religious. Warren Buffett's not very religious, and he's one of the happiest people I've ever seen. Um, and there's people who don't have a family because their family is very emotionally damaged, and they're still very happy. So understand that you don't need every part of this, but um, having at least a few of these pillars solidly is very important. So as we're going through this, make sure to take notes in your notepad and write a rating from a 1 to 10 scale. Right now, for each of these four pillars, I'd like to see where you stand in the chat below. So as far as faith goes, um, I'm going to keep talking. Go ahead and type if you want to. Um, as far as faith goes, it's basically religion. And I also know a lot of people who attribute a lot of their happiness to just religion. So they get their happiness and kindness and love from their religion. And it's not about anything else. And a lot of things that happen to them, whether it's work or anything else, it doesn't matter because their faith keeps them foundationally grounded and they're happy regardless. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to stick to religion as your pillar, but understand the main mindset behind this. The whole idea that it's not your environment, it's you, and how, no matter what happens, you can be a happy individual. Um, so that moves on to community. Um, Community is a lot of different things. It's the strength of your social relationships. there's this book by Matthew Lieberman. He's a psychologist that says um, it's not about money or materialistic things. We as humans are wired to be very, very social creatures. And the strength of your social relationships is very strong and helpful to achieving happiness. Um, they work as a support system for you when tough times happen. And so, in terms of your community, it's not about quantity. It's not about being the most popular kid in high school. It's about the quality of your relationships. Um, so, guys, I'm not seeing anything in the chat below. I just want to make sure you guys are still here. Okay, there we go. Richard has rated himself already. Okay, so I'll continue on. Um, so there's that with regards to community, it is that social, but also it can mean giving back, volunteering, charity work. All these things have proven to show that it increases your happiness for the long term, not the short term. And there's a lot of psychology behind helping others, whether it is through fulfilling a higher purpose or just volunteering in a charitable organization or spending your monies to others. Um, there have been scientific studies proving all these points. Uh, there's a study showing that if you just spent $5 on a stranger or $5 on a cup of coffee for a friend, levels of happiness are much longer lasting and enduring than if you had spent this $5 on yourself or anything else. Even if this $5 was gifted to you from the start, it wasn't even your $5 to begin with. So that's very, very important. So community, it's different aspects, just so you understand. It's your friends, it's also volunteering, it's also higher fulfillment, and these are all possible things you can start working on to improve your levels of happiness. And finally, we get to family. So, there are instances where your family is just too emotionally unstable to be around. But if that's not the case, it's very important to, spend time with them, to visit them. Same thing with long lost friends that you haven't met in a while, your best friends in elementary school or in your childhood. It's good to revisit them. Uh, People who have done you well that you haven't seen in a while. There's been studies done to show that this has been very helpful for helping your happiness. Um, Many billionaires and millionaires, one of their biggest regrets is spending so much time at their company that they have missed out on their childhood, or on their children's childhood, I mean, or on their parents, and they missed out on their parents passing away or spending time with them. So that's it. But that's not it. That's these four pillars. Let me just let you let you know that these are not the only things. I have a lot more in store, but these are the biggest, most easy things that you can start working on to improve. So before we continue, let me just glance at the chat real quick. So we have Richard, Moncusta, and Eli. Richard, you have 4 on work, 3 on faith, 2 on community, 7 on family. You definitely need to start working on your community and work. Understand it's not a sprint; it's a marathon. It will take time, but um, enjoy the journey. Uh, Mancusta says it's pretty average for all the 4 pillars except work. Eli says work 7, faith 8, community 7, family 4. Eli, you're pretty strong on a lot of categories. You can work on faith, and again, realize that you don't necessarily need all 4 of these pillars to do well. So sometimes it may be better to just strengthen a pillar you're already doing well on. So maybe that could be work for you. Turn that 7 into a 10. So this is just as important, and people forsake this, but these are things that you can work on to improve your happiness and contentment on a day-to-day basis and for the long term. And again, these are marathon things, not sprints. It would take habit formation to achieve them. Exercise. If you can work to exercise 30 minutes per day doing aerobic exercise, so this is basically cardio. It's running, jogging, swimming, cycling, anything that will get your heart pumping. Weightlifting doesn't count. It has to be something that will get you sweating and pumping and moving. And you can't do it lackadaisically. It has to be at least 60% of your maximum heart rate. This has proven to increase your energy, increase your health, increase your happiness tremendously. And I recommend building up until this. You can't do this in a week or a month. And I learned this the hard way. I think the best thing to do is set baby steps. So otherwise you will burn out. If you set your goal unequivocally to just do 10 minutes